This afternoon, President Trump threatened to cut off all federal subsidies to General Motors because of the auto company's announcement it would slash more than 14,000 jobs at 5 plants throughout North America so as to invest in more future-forward technology. The president wrote in a tweet, "Very disappointed with General Motors and their CEO, Mary Barra, for closing plants in Ohio, Michigan, and Maryland. Nothing being closed in Mexico and China. The U.S. saved General Motors, and this is the thanks we get. We are now looking at cutting all GM subsidies. We looked into this. It's important to note that the biggest federal subsidy for electric cars made by GM is about to go away on its own anyway, once a sales milestone is hit." Let's talk about this with our experts. And let me ask you, because President Obama led the auto bailout under...
And Trump gave him credit for that today.
Well,
I guess we should applaud that.
Is that the first time he's given Obama credit for it?
Probably not, but...
I don't know. I mean, maybe he's criticized in the past, maybe he hasn't. But do you share the outrage? I mean, the U.S. taxpayer and the Obama administration, really did a lot to keep GM alive.
That's true. And look, I think the CEO is currently trying to keep GM alive. So I think what she's doing in these states is very politically treacherous for GM and politically treacherous for the people who are defending GM. But she was hired 5 years ago. She has cut a lot of cars from production that were popular. She has tried to slim GM. So it's very unpopular, but I don't know that she's going to change her ways about it. I'm not sure I'm outraged for GM. She's trying to keep the company alive.
And part of the problem is the cars that they are selling are unpopular. I mean, that you can't force Americans to buy, I guess, the Chevrolet Cruze, which is an electric vehicle, which is a lot of the subsidies are going to buying these electric vehicles. So to cut those subsidies, it just means that people probably aren't going to buy those cars anyway. I mean, it's interesting to hear a Republican president talk about subsidies. Remember, Obama was slammed all the time for this idea of picking winners and losers,
sure,
and all this kind of stuff. And it seems like in some ways he's kind of doing that as well. But this is really, treacherous territory for this president, because he went to those states and said, all of these jobs are coming back. You don't have to move. I'm going to revive these
In fact,
companies.
take a listen to Trump just last night after this announcement had already been made.
The previous administration, they said manufacturing's never coming back. It's gone. You need a magic wand. Well, we found the magic wand, and that's actually going to be increasing by a lot in the next short while, because we have a lot of companies moving in.
So it's 14,000 jobs. Now, the economy, we should note, obviously, we've covered this plenty of times before. The economy is doing very well. Unemployment is very low. But this goes right at the Trump brand, taking away American jobs in the heartland.
100%. Remember that Mitt Romney got in trouble because he had written an op-ed that got titled, "Let Detroit Go Bankrupt." And that was a huge sort of challenge for him politically.
I do.
And so Trump wound up, his political success has been built on kind of being a different kind of Republican in that regard. This happening not just in terms of losing manufacturing jobs, but Ohio, a state that voted for Trump by the same margins that Texas did. I mean, Ohio at the presidential level was not a swing state this last time. And so for it to be the place where this is happening, I think really strikes at the heart of the president's political base.
And beyond it just being a political issue, first, I want to say this is devastating for these families. And I feel for each and every one of them that is about to lose their jobs in a place where maybe they are not going to be able to get another job that pays as well as this or has as good as benefits. So this is just devastating on a human level. It's also politically going to be a setback for President Trump, not only because this isn't all his fault. Gas prices are down, so people aren't buying these kinds of cars. That's one issue. But also, President Trump did make this a problem for himself because he went there. He promised that these jobs are going to come back, manufacturing jobs. He promised that they should not sell their house. You shouldn't say things like that, and then because you're not going to be able to back it up. He did it again yesterday when he was leaving the White House. He essentially said that he told the woman that they're going to have to put something else in there.
Mary Barra,
Mary Barra said something instead of the Chevy Cruze. Well, just because they pick a new car doesn't mean it's going to sell. American cars are on the decline. So those are bigger issues. And that just goes back to President Trump shouldn't make promises that he can't keep, because then when something like this happens, people hold President Trump
responsible. And this is why his re-election, why running for re-election can be harder than running for election the first time.
Because
people hold you accountable for what you promised. And President Trump went out there, as you said, and he promised not just in the auto industry, he promised he would bring back manufacturing jobs across the country.
Right.
The policies he's put in place have not been policies that have done that. I mean, look back when we were talking about the tax reform debate. A lot of companies went out and admitted that they would send jobs overseas. They would close plants. That's exactly what happened.
GM just got $150 million from that tax cut.
Right,
Exactly.
and they're essentially saying that they're not reinvesting that necessarily back into research and development and adding more plants. So all of these policies that they said that we're going to juice jobs, rolling back regulations, at least in this case, it hasn't happened.
All right, thanks one and all. Appreciate it.